Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to dial in. Whew. What a week, but we're back. Welcome to another episode of Dialed In. It is your host with the most, Colin O'Callahan. And yeah, I am absolutely fired up for this show. Actually, this is probably the most excited that I've been in who knows how long to film an episode like this. I mean, I'm fired up all the time, but for this one, I think this is particularly special. And no, it's not because my birthday is coming up in 2 days. It's just, I definitely needed this one, and it feels right. And I think, I think we should just get right into the picks. So let me share the screen here. I'm getting better at this. Here we are. I'm going to share the screen right here. Go to week 12. We got the schedule, but there is one game that I think we have to bring up because the two teams that played in Madrid last week are on a bye. We have the Miami Dolphins and the Washington Commanders. I'm going to be quite honest with you. A lot of people were saying that this was a horrible game, that, both offenses were hard to watch. And I can understand that because everybody wants to see both offenses score points back and forth. But realistically, I actually thought this was a pretty well fought defensive battle. And, I think both teams had their fair share of miscues. I mean, neither could score at the 1 yard line. There were, neither team could score a touchdown until the third quarter. But the bottom line for me in this one was that Washington just made too many mistakes at the worst possible time, or really two critical mistakes. The first was the muff punt that could have set up a game-winning field goal attempt for Washington if they had gotten the ball back. And to the defense's credit, they did force a huge stop. But, Matt Gay unfortunately missed two field goals that could have given Washington the lead. That's why he ended up getting cut 24 hours later. But the second big mistake was the fact that on the first play of overtime, Marcus Mariota threw a bad interception to Jack Jones. And all Devon Achane had to do was just use his speed and use his burst to set up a chip shot field goal for Riley Patterson. That gave Miami the win 16-13. And honestly, I'm not going to put too much stock into this game for either team because we both know that they're just falling off a little bit of a carousel here. Miami is actually a little bit of a better situation because they've won 3 out of the last 4 games, but Washington, they are on a very, very long losing streak. They still don't have Jaden Daniels. Terry McLaurin's been out for who knows how long. They don't have really anybody in the passing game to make a consistent impact unless you have banged up Deebo Samuel and 34-year-old Zach Ertz. The secondary is just made of Swiss cheese at this point. But now they're on a, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-game losing streak. And their next opponent is against the Denver Broncos in 2 weeks. Yeah, have fun with that. Miami, on the other hand, I don't know. They're going to be in a very interesting situation when they come back from the bye week because they got the Saints, then they have the Jets, then Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Tampa Bay, and New England. I mean, they're set up for at least 6 to 7 more wins. And who knows, with the way that they play throughout the rest of the season, Mike McDaniel could still be the head coach entering 2026. And whether that's a good or a bad thing, we'll see what happens from there. But let's get right into the Week 12 games. We have the Buffalo Bills versus the Houston Texans tonight at 8:15 Eastern Time, 7:15 Central. We got 2 streaks here. The Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen, they have not won a game in Houston. Yet the Texans have not won on Thursday Night Football ever. So one of those 2 scenarios is going to change. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be the Buffalo Bills. I think the Bills will be the ones getting their first win at Energy Stadium with Josh Allen as quarterback. And I'm going to cut it short, and I'll tell you why. Buffalo, obviously, they're coming off, a pretty needed bounce back win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Didn't start off great. Josh Allen threw 2 bad interceptions. Mecole Hardman muffed a punt. But outside of those 3 miscues, this was one of their more complimentary victories, they've had in a while. Josh Allen had 6 touchdowns, 3 on the ground, 3 on the air. The defense, while they did let up over 200 rushing yards to the Buccaneers, they only allowed, 173 to Baker Mayfield. They forced a couple turnovers as well. And the special teams had a few big returns as well, not just from Mecole Hardman, but from Ray Davis Jr. as well. So I think that, outside of the turnovers, Tampa Bay couldn't take advantage of them. The defense did give up a lot of lead changes. I think there were 9 total combined from both sides. But in the fourth quarter and down the stretch, Buffalo played outstanding in all three phases. They shored up their end of the bargain, and they just made a few more plays than the Bucks in the end. And I think that's really all that counts here. The Houston Texans, they beat the Tennessee Titans, which is what we all expected. Yet at the same time, it took a walk-off field goal just to win that game. So I'm a little skeptical about the offense. They got shut out in the first half, and it took a while for them to, really build any sort of momentum whatsoever. The defense led up a 95-yard touchdown drive on Cam Ward's final possession of the afternoon, but give the offense credit. They did enough. Matthew Wright had a few big, crucial field goals to fill in for the injured Ka'imi Fairbairn, but on a 4 days rest, I just don't know if the Houston Texans are just gonna have enough to beat the Buffalo Bills for 60 straight minutes. It's gonna take probably a heroic effort just for the Houston Texans to even have a shot here. So I'm going to pick the Buffalo Bills to win in a pretty big blowout here. I'm going to say they win this game 30-13. Yeah, I don't really see this game being close at all. So now we move on to Sunday afternoon's festivities. Let's start with this AFC grudge match right here between the Indianapolis Colts and the Kansas City Chiefs here. Indy's coming off a bye. The Chiefs, on the other hand, are coming off another ugly road loss to the Denver Broncos. Yes, it came off a walk-off field goal, and yes, the Kansas City Chiefs had the lead, but, neither offense could score a touchdown in the first half. Both teams committed 10 penalties. They only scored one touchdown in 4 to 5 red zone trips. But Kansas City, not only did they commit the only turnover of the game, which was to begin the second half, but on their final 2 drives of the fourth quarter, they were in position to close the deal and win the game, yet they went 3 and out both tries. And Denver not only kicked the game-time field goal, they also kicked the one that won the game. So it's just been one of those years for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's just just when you think that they're back on track and that they're probably going to torment the AFC, they have one of these duds that just lets you know that nobody's scared of them anymore. And the penalties have piled up. The offense, they have pieces, but they do not run the ball at all. Defensively, they are still one of the best scoring defenses in the National Football League, yet it's just they're one of those units that can only do so much. And there's a reason why a lot of people have the Indianapolis Colts winning this game coming off of 2 weeks rest, but not for me. I honestly think that this is going to be another bounce back win for the Kansas City Chiefs, and the reason why is because of Daniel Jones. Ladies and gentlemen, the Indianapolis Colts have lost 2 games, and both times have been on the road, and both times have been because of Daniel Jones coughing up the football. He had 3 against the Rams in week 4. He had 5 against the Pittsburgh Steelers just a few weeks back. And now you're going up against a well-coached Chiefs defense who is going to do everything they can to take out Jonathan Taylor and make Daniel Jones win the game by himself. So I think when you look at it from that standpoint, if you screw up at any point of the game, I don't care if it's in the first quarter, the second quarter, whatever the case is, if you make one tiny mistake, you're not winning that game. Patrick Mahomes is going to do what it takes to not make this a fair fight. So I honestly think, let me pull up my score here. What do I got? I honestly think that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win this game 34-20. And yeah. So let's move on to the next game here. We got which one can I go to? Because there's so many different ones I can point to. I'm going to go with the Steelers and the Bears. So Pittsburgh came off, a blowout victory to the Cincinnati Bengals. Realistically, it was one of those games where it was actually pretty close. The Cincinnati Bengals, they got in their own way with, a few big miscues. They try to go for 2 after the first touchdown, which is I don't know why you're trying to go for 2 in that situation. But in the third quarter, they were only down, 4 points. They were driving right down the field. They were actually in Pittsburgh territory. They had a chance to take the lead. And Joe Flacco threw a pick 6 to Kyle Duggar. That put Pittsburgh ahead 20-9. Then, after Cincinnati kicked a field goal to make it a 1-score game again, the Steelers offense, led by Mason Rudolph, because Aaron Rodgers suffered a slight fracture in his left wrist. They go right down the field. Kenneth Gainwell capped it off with a wide open touchdown to go ahead by double digits. And then not only in just a couple plays or a few plays later, Noah Fant coughs up the football. James Pierre comes through with the scoop and score, and Pittsburgh ended up winning that game 34-12. So it was definitely a good redemption revenge victory for a team that, lost to the Cincinnati Bengals on Thursday Night Football just a month ago. But this is not going to be an easy test, as the Chicago Bears are once again coming off a dramatic victory at the last second. And this is why I just cannot trust the Bears when it comes to their playoff hopes. Let me get my checklist here for a second. Okay. Defense forces multiple takeaways. Check. Offense doesn't really do anything about it. Check. You're going up against a pretty subpar opponent. Check. The team lets the opposition hang around and even lets them take the lead. Check. Last minute heroics. Check. It's pretty much the same script every single week. And it just happened again. J.J. McCarthy threw 2 interceptions, yet it was 16-10 with 50 seconds left in the fourth quarter, only for J.J. McCarthy to show up in the clutch with ice in his veins to throw a go-ahead touchdown pass to Jordan Addison. Yet it wouldn't be a Bears win without any BS heroics or any BS tactics. Devin Duvernay had a huge kickoff return that got all the way to the Minnesota 40-yard line. The Bears offense did just enough to set up a 48-yard field goal attempt for Kyle Santos, and they ended up winning that game 19-17. So looking at this game, I don't know who's going to be starting for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to try to gut this out, try to gut the wrist injury out. I don't know if Mason Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, is going to make his first start of the season. Who knows? Either way, the Bears are going to be under a big microscope here because they have not been able to beat a team with a winning record, at least from my memory, because they lost to Baltimore. They got destroyed by the Lions in week 2. They lost to Minnesota the first week, but the rest of their wins, Raiders, 2 wins, Commanders, 3 wins, Saints, 2 wins, Bengals, 3 wins, Giants, 2 wins, Vikings, 4 wins. I mean, Pittsburgh Steelers are 6-4. I mean, they have flaws on both sides of the ball, absolutely. Like, they don't really run the ball as well as they should. The defense can still give up a few big passing plays, but I need to see more consistency from the Bears for me to believe that they're going to even have a shot of being remotely competitive. So, yeah, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers winning this game. I mean, they have a legitimate team. They have playoff aspirations. And to be quite frank, like I said, I need to see like a better performance from Caleb Williams, a more consistent performance from Caleb Williams. I understand he balled out against the Cincinnati Bengals, but that's the Bengals. Their defense is absolutely atrocious. So my final score, I think it's going to be a close game per usual, but with Mike Tomlin on the other sideline, I'm just not going to completely bet against him in this one. So give me the Pittsburgh Steelers in this one, 21-17. So, to all the Bears fans that might be watching this, I would say I feel sorry, but not really, because it might be the best season you've had in who knows how long, but the fall is coming, and I'm not going to be excited when it happens, but I can just tell this is not going to be, just enjoy it while it lasts. That's all I'm going to say. All right, next up, we got the Patriots and the Bengals. Speaking of which, New England is coming off a Thursday night victory over the New Jersey Jets. Yes, I'm saying New Jersey because, as I said before, that is where they play and that is where they belong. Anyway, this was pretty much a standard victory for the New England Patriots. Defense gets off to a slow start. They end up figuring things out down the stretch. The offense gets into somewhat of a rhythm, and they end up winning the game by double digits. Justin Fields was a little more respectable, but just a little bit, because Aaron Glenn made the announcement that they're going to bench him for Tyrod Taylor against the Ravens, which is just going to be an outright travesty. New England, honestly, it was not their best performance. I think there were definitely a few drives where they left a lot of points off the board. I mean, there was a drop by Stephon Diggs on third down that could have been huge. There was a missed field goal by Andy Borealis at the end of the first half. And even with 3 touchdowns from TreVeyon Henderson, it was just, I think the offense, had one of those days where they did enough, but you could have expected a little better out of them. The defense, they had some troubles on the ground, but for the most part, they did not let the Jets seize any momentum in this game whatsoever. They forced a big fumble late in the fourth quarter. They got a few stops when they needed to. And more importantly, after the opening drive, they really just kept this Jets offense in check. And considering that they didn't have Garrett Wilson or anybody else that could really catch the football, it was, it was just one of those days for the Jets. And for the Patriots, it was just like I said, it was just a game that we expected them to win, and it didn't need to be pretty. As long as they did the bare minimum and not get in their own way, they were going to be fine. So I think for this particular game against the Bengals, it's going to be more or less the same thing. I saw the reports that said that Joe Burrow might come back and potentially play in this game because he was taking first-team reps with the starters the last couple of days, but they're not going to have Ja'Marr Chase because he got suspended for spitting at Jalen Ramsey, and they're most likely not going to be with Trey Hendrickson, their best defensive player. So when you have the New England Patriots, who have one of the best defenses in the National Football League, an offense with an MVP candidate, a rising star, and a rookie running back, an offense that just has so many guys that can get open and make big plays against the worst defense in the National Football League, I just don't see this game getting close at all whatsoever. So I'm going to say the Patriots win this one 38-24. And if anyone can assert themselves at the top of the MVP race, it's going to be me. Hopefully I didn't jinx them there. All right, next up we got the Ravens and the Jets. Baltimore is coming off a win against the Cleveland Browns. Their fourth straight victory of the season. And honestly, like I said, against the Cleveland Browns, you just didn't really need to do too much offensively. It was not a great game at all by Lamar Jackson at all. I mean, he threw only 193 yards, 2 interceptions, one of them a pick six. That wasn't his fault. It was a straight-up drop by Keaton Mitchell. But to their credit, the running game picked up down the stretch. Derrick Henry was able to get over 100 yards. Mark Andrews on a fake tush push was able to, sweep over to the right and find an open hole for a 35-yard touchdown that gave Baltimore the lead. And, the defense didn't give up a touchdown all game. Shedeur Sanders made his debut in the second half after Dillon Gabriel suffered a concussion. Only went 4 of 16 with no touchdown passes and an interception and a fourth down stop on the final possession that could have tied the game. But we all knew the Browns were not going to win this game. Even with 4 sacks from Myles Garrett, it was just, their offense is just inept. They are so bad. And, I mean, I'm honestly a little bit surprised that Kevin Stefanski still has his job because I was pretty certain that Jimmy Haslam was going to try to scapegoat him in the middle of the season just to, kind of desperately save their season from falling into an abyss. But it's just real. I'll talk about the Cleveland Browns later on, but going back to this game, Ravens and the Jets, this is going to be a blowout. I don't see this game being close at all. I mean, even with Tyrod Taylor, their offense is just not good. Their defense has yet to force a single takeaway. And more importantly, the Ravens have steadily improved over these last 4 weeks. So it's going to take a near miraculous performance just for the Jets to even have a shot at making things competitive. So I'm going to pick the Ravens to win this game convincingly at home, 34-10. All right, next we have the Seahawks and the Titans. Oh, boy. Guess we got to talk about that game, huh? Oh, boy. We already talked about Tennessee. They're freaking garbage. Sam Darnold. I said last week, this had to be the game of his life against the Rams. Because after losing to them in the regular season on Thursday Night Football, after getting absolutely humiliated in the wild card, where he got sacked 9 times and only scored as many points, in his shot at revenge and his chance at redemption, he threw 4 interceptions. 2 of them resulted in LA touchdowns. They only lost the game by 2 off a 61-yard field goal miss, meaning that the Seahawks didn't turn the football over. More importantly, if Sam Darnold didn't throw the ball right to the other team, they would have had a chance of winning that game because the Rams' offense was nothing spectacular. Matthew Stafford, he only had 130 yards. They were 2 for 13 on third down. In the second half, they were really kept in check. In the fourth quarter, they couldn't really do much of anything. And all of a sudden, they did the bare minimum by just capitalizing off their turnovers, the Rams' offense did. And Seattle, while they did, even when they didn't turn the ball over, they settled for field goals until the fourth quarter. They didn't kick things into gear until it was too late. And The 61-yard miss, I just count that as a desperation attempt. The fact that they were even in that position is just flat out startling to me. But having said all of that, I think the Seahawks find a way to bounce back. I don't see this being close at all. I'll say the final score for this one is 37-10. So let me write this down in my notebook. Here we go. All right. Now we have the Packers and the Vikings. So Green Bay is coming off a 7-point victory against the New York Giants. And honestly, I didn't really find that to be surprising. The fact that, Jameis Winston and Mike Kafka, keeping the Packers on their toes for 60 straight minutes, that wasn't surprising by any means necessary. I mean, Green Bay's defense, they've been strong for the most part this season, but, they've had, a couple games where they just didn't look particularly promising. Just look at the tie against the Cowboys and the 4-point victory against Arizona. But what was more startling to me was just the fact that their offense has not been consistent all season long. And I get it. Josh Jacobs was hurt. Malik Willis had to take over for Jordan Love at one point early in the first half. They didn't have Tucker Kraft. You don't have Elgton Jenkins. But when you have a team that's coached by Matt LaFleur and a team that's quarterbacked by Jordan Love, you're too good right now, and you're too promising and likable to be a team that's just going to settle for the 7th seed in the NFC or be a wild card contender at best. I'm dead serious. I mean, the fact that it took until a fourth quarter touchdown pass and an interception by Jameis Winston and the strip sack from Micah Parsons, but that was with 1 second left. But the point is, for that game to come down to those three scenarios and for you to win by 7, I don't really know what to make of you right now, because offensively, your identity shifts from week to week. The defense can only do so much. And I guess the Minnesota Vikings, I'm scared that we're going to get another close and scrappy fight here. But Minnesota's weak link has been one person, J.J. McCarthy. And I hate saying that because I had a lot of high hopes from him at the start of the season, but he's only thrown 6 touchdown passes and 8 interceptions. And you're going up against one of the best defenses in football. And just like Green Bay, Minnesota is too likable of a team for them to be a subpar squad as well. When you have Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones and Jordan Addison and Kevin O'Connell as your head coach and a likable defense with a bunch of playmakers on all 3 levels, I mean, just the fact that you're 4-6 right now and you could be 4-7 after this game, it's unacceptable to me. And I think it's not going to come down to which quarterback could show up in the final minutes, but who's going to screw up at the worst possible time. And unfortunately, when I look at how both teams have been so far, I have to trust Jordan Love here. I hate to say it. I think we're going to get a close game here, but it's not going to be a pretty game. I hate to say it. So I'll say the Packers win 26-23. All right, now we get to a less, predictable game here. We got the Lions and the Giants. So the Giants are going to get Jackson Dart back, or at least we think that they're going to get Jackson Dart back. We got to see if he's able to clear concussion protocol. I think he was limited in practice yesterday, so we'll see how his status unfolds from there. But the Detroit Lions, just like the loss against Minnesota, this is going to be their bounce back opportunity, because last week against the Philadelphia Eagles, they were just flat out abhorrent offensively. Defense actually had an outstanding game. I mean, more so, that's more on the Philadelphia Eagles offense just being absolutely pathetic as well. But that defense did everything they could to keep Detroit in the game for as long as possible. But not only did they go 0 for 5 on 4th down, one of them on a fake punt, another on a bad drop, and 3 off of just absolutely terrible throws made by Jared Goff. But the quarterback himself went 14 of 37. In the second half, he was 7 of 25. The only good player that actually made a consistent impact was Jahmyr Gibbs with 100 receiving yards. And yeah, there was a point in the game where Detroit had a chance to take the lead late in the first half, but thanks to a taunting penalty by Jameson Williams, Jake Bates missed the extra point, so the game was tied at 6. Jared Goff had an interception earlier in that drive, or a couple drives before, and Philadelphia, to their credit, they scored the touchdown that they needed to get a 7-point cushion at the break. And, they just didn't turn the football over. I mean, they couldn't really run the football well. The passing game was sporadic. Kevin Patullo just proved more and more to be a hack. But, yeah, that game was more so on Detroit than Philadelphia because we knew exactly who the Eagles were. We knew that they were going to be a great defensive team with a very subpar offense, but the Detroit Lions just could not take advantage at all, and it was by their own doing. So I'm going to say that the Detroit Lions, they find a way to bounce back with or without Jackson Dart on the other sideline. I say they win this game pretty convincingly, 34-13. Now we're going to get into the late afternoon window. Let's go Jags Cardinals. So Jacksonville, where the hell was that earlier? I'm talking about the 35-6 blowout win over the Los Angeles Chargers. Fun fact, that was actually the first meeting between these two teams since that wild card comeback in January of 2023. And to be quite honest, it felt like both teams picked up exactly where they left off because Justin Herbert was absolutely terrible. They couldn't run the football 1 ounce of a bit, and Jacksonville just trying to play complementary football, ran the football extremely well. Their defense was flat out outstanding, was flat out incredible. And Trevor Lawrence didn't have a great game, especially at the start. I mean, they had the failed 4th down attempt. He had a horrible interception. Yet the defense set the tone from start to finish, and the offense just ran the football extremely well. And from that point on, all Lawrence had to do was just hold on to the football, and they'd be in pretty decent shape. And they ended up winning that game 35-6. Arizona, they just got the doors kicked out by the San Francisco 49ers, and all it took was a 99-yard kickoff return from Sky Moore at the start just for the 49ers to take all the momentum. Now, Jacoby Brissett did complete 47 passes on 57 attempts, yet the game was not close at all. I mean, they turned the ball over 3 times, and the worst stat line to me, 17 penalties, 130 yards. One of them was on a personal foul at the end of the half that allowed the 49ers to kick a field goal. Another canceled a 60-yard touchdown run from Bam Knight that would have made it a 1-score game in the 3rd quarter. Like, it would have kept things, pretty close. But Arizona, just like they did against the Seattle Seahawks, they got in their own way. They made way too many mistakes, and they just kept falling further and further behind. So when I look at this game, I'm not going to see a blowout at all. My guess is we're probably going to get a similar game like we did against the Raiders, like the Jacksonville Jaguars got against the Raiders, I should say. But I like their offense more. They're more consistent. And like I said last week when it came to the Arizona Cardinals, if Marvin Harrison Jr. is not healthy, I just don't trust their passing game. And more importantly, I don't think the running game is going to pick up the slack here. So both defenses are pretty flimsy. They're both pretty suspect. But I trust the Jaguars to, barely hang in and, at least do the bare minimum and not screw up. It could really go either way here, but I think the Jaguars are going to win in a pretty close game, 27-23. Okay, let's see who we have next. Let's go with the Falcons and the Saints. So New Orleans is coming off a bye, and Atlanta, unfortunately, not only did they lose to the Carolina Panthers, not only is this their 5th straight loss? Yeah, I think their 5th straight loss. But Michael Penix Jr. suffered a partially torn ACL. He's out for the rest of the year, and Kirk Cousins will be the starting quarterback moving forward. Bryce Young had an outstanding game. Even with 5 sacks taken, he threw for 448 yards with 3 touchdown passes. They didn't even have that great of a running game, but Carolina, that was the game that I needed to see from Bryce Young for him to, be able to remind us why we had so much hope for him at the end of last season. And to his credit, back in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, he put the team on his back. The defense was absolutely outstanding in the second half and in overtime. And, while they were down for large stretches of the game, they never backed down. They never gave up. And the Falcons just, couldn't really do anything to, withstand the resistance. So, honestly, I don't know what we're going to get in this game because the Falcons should have the more talented team. But not only is Penix out, Drake London is week to week with knee injuries. The defense has been playing absolutely outstanding, but the offense is holding the team back from success. Tyler Shough was fantastic 2 weeks ago against the Carolina Panthers. The defense bottled up Rico Dowdle, and they only allowed, 120 plus yards to Bryce Young. So my understanding is that the Falcons should win this game, but I'm not completely confident. I honestly think the Saints could potentially win this game and pull off an upset here. I actually think, you know what? Yeah, I actually think the Saints are going to win this game. And I'm literally changing my mind at the last second, but I think they'll win at a low-scoring fest, 20-13. A little bit of a similar score to the Carolina Panthers game. Okay, now we have the Browns and the Raiders. So Shedeur Sanders is going to make his first start of the season, and he's going to need to have one heck of a better performance than he did the week before, because 4 out of 16 with no touchdown passes and an interceptions. Yeah, it's absolutely rough. Way to waste another career-defining performance from Myles Garrett. If he gets the single-season sack record, it's going to just be, it probably might be the most impressive one, just considering how bad his team is. But the Las Vegas Raiders are not in a completely different situation. They got the doors blown off by the Dallas Cowboys. They were up 63 early on. You know, the defense forced a 3-and-out early on, and then a huge strip sack from Max Crosby, placed the ball at the 15-yard line. Yet the offense couldn't really do anything besides settle for field goals. And CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, the big asterisk there, both of them didn't play on the opening drive. And the minute those two returned to the football field, the Cowboys offense took off, and the defense, with all the acquisitions and the returning players coming onto the field, you know, with Quinnen Williams and Malik Hooker and DeMarvion Overshown and those guys, they had one of their best performances of the season. And I know it was against a very subpar Raiders team, but considering, you know, the last couple of weeks and how, you know, emotional and devastating it was for them, it felt right for them to win by 17 points. And I couldn't have been more proud of just the effort that they put in. But we'll get into that game in just a second. This is going to be an incredibly ugly game here between the Browns and the Raiders. I mean, both offenses are not going to be great at all. I mean, Ashton Janney had 7 yards on 6 carries, for crying out loud. And Geno Smith ended up throwing his 13th interception of the season. They gave up 4 sacks. And now you're going up against a pretty strong Cleveland defense here. It could really go either way because these offenses are absolutely pitiful, but I'm just going to go with the stronger defense here and just hope to God that, you know, Shedeur Sanders doesn't have a complete meltdown on the football field. So my final score, I'm going with the Browns 13-10. So, all right, next up we have the Eagles and the Cowboys. This is definitely going to be the game of the week outside of the Sunday Night Football and the Monday Night Football game. I'm going to have to say this. I don't see this as a blowout at all. I'm honestly leaning more towards the Cowboys in this one than I am with the Philadelphia Eagles, but there are so many different elements at play here. The Eagles offense is absolutely garbage, and they're going up against the Cowboys defense that looked a lot better last week, but it was against the Raiders. Dallas's defense still has a lot of flaws that they got to fix. You don't know what you're going to get from Saquon Barkley. You don't know what you're going to get from this passing game, more importantly. And I don't really know what to expect from that point. But then you look at the other side. You got one of the best offenses in the National Football League with Dak and CD, and Javonte Williams, and George Pickens, and Jake Ferguson, going up against one of the best defenses in the NFL that has been absolutely fantastic since they made all those moves at the deadline. You know, getting Jalen Phillips, trading away, you know, Jair Alexander, or not even trading him away, just like not even using him into the fold. He is stepping away for personal reasons, so I'm hoping that, you know, everything's okay there. But you know what I mean. Just making sure that the pass rush was beefed up, getting Brandon Graham to come out of retirement, getting healthier in the secondary. This is going to be a pretty intense matchup here. It's going to be an outstanding rivalry. And as long as Jalen Carter doesn't spit on anybody this time, I think that the Eagles defense is going to have another outstanding game here. But I don't know, man. I mean, Dak Prescott hasn't lost at home to the Eagles since 2017 when he didn't have Ezekiel Elliott because of a 6-game suspension. And, you know, Carson Wentz didn't even have a great of a game, but they were able to run the ball extremely well. And Philly's rushing attack this season, they've had moments, but it hasn't really been consistent. So I hate to side with Brock Morgan here, but I actually have the Cowboys winning this game too. And I think we're going to get an upset here. I think we're going to get a very, very, very chippy game here. But I like the Cowboys offense, but more importantly, I cannot trust Philadelphia's offense with how bad they've been all season long. So And that's saying a lot because the Cowboys defense hasn't been great either. So I'm going to say the Cowboys win this one. I'm going to use the reverse score from week 1. I'm going to say they win this one 24-20. All right, now we get to Sunday Night Football between the Buccaneers and the Los Angeles Rams. I'm going to keep this short. I think the Rams are going to win this one, and I honestly don't see this particularly close because what have we seen from the Buccaneers besides the fact that they could win a very weak division and yet not beat any of the big juggernauts in their conference? Philadelphia, Detroit, LA. More importantly, on a primetime stage. Now, I understand the Bucs have a pretty respectable offense and that their defense has pieces, but the Rams are a lot stronger in every single facet besides the special teams because, the kicking situation has not been great lately. You have Matthew Stafford playing at an MVP level. Kyra Williams, still one of the best running backs in the league. You got a lethal passing attack featuring Puka and Devontae Adams, one of the best O-lines in the league. The third best scoring defense that's also tied for second in takeaways. The Buccaneers, they're a good team, but they have not proven to be great. And I think that's going to be the difference maker in this particular matchup. So I'm going to go with the Rams to win this one 30-20. And last but certainly not least, we have the 49ers and the Panthers. Now, all the optics say you need to pick the Panthers here because the 49ers, or actually, not even that. All the optics should say pick the 49ers. They're at home. They're better coached. They have Brock Purdy coming back. Their offense is healthy. The defense looks respectable. But here's the catch. Let me click the 49ers here. Since week 3, it has literally been back and forth. And I pointed this out last week. Loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win. So I am hoping that pattern ends here because the 49ers should be the better football team in this one. But the Carolina Panthers have been really impressive on the road. They're only half a game back from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the division. And more importantly, 2 of their last 3 road wins were against respectable opponents. Well, maybe not the Atlanta Falcons in this particular case, but the fact that they were able to sweep them this year was somewhat, impressive from my perspective. And they did beat the Packers in Lambeau. So it could really go either way here. I would probably say for the Panthers to win this game, Bryce Young just needs to pick up where he left off and not screw up. He doesn't have to throw for 450 yards this time, and I don't think he will because Robert Saleh's defenses are generally sturdy, formidable units. But if they can run the football, which I think they can, and Bryce Young can just, continue to be the solution and not the problem, then I think Carolina can make this a scrappy game. But we saw what the 49ers offense is like when Christian McCaffrey is at his peak, when Brock Purdy is at 100%, when the offense has enough weapons at their disposal. They can, I don't know if they could win the division, but they could at least be, a respectable wild card opponent. And I think that on a primetime stage, I think this is the first time Bryce Young has played on Monday Night Football in his career. I could be wrong, but I think when the 49ers are more experienced and they're better coached and you have, more consistent players on both sides, I think that will be enough to win this game. So I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I think the 49ers are going to do what it takes to, control the line on both sides of the ball 30-23. And with that being said, the games are officially set in stone. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for additional content. I appreciate you, Quinn. We'll see you back next week before Thanksgiving for the big feast. So take care, everyone. Have a